All right, guys, it is Sunday, January 9th, 2022, and just like that, plans change in my little car world, my projects. Now, I know some of you guys that watch my videos are already pretty much figuring out what I'm getting ready to do, and you are correct. So Friday night, this showed up on UPS. This is my Howard's hydraulic roller retrofit camshaft for my 406 small block for my two-door hardtop 55 project. Now, I had stated in one of the earlier videos on this a couple weeks back that in the event that cam came in early this month, I was going to completely stop on this immediately and jump back on this and try to make Daryl Starbird's annual Rod and Custom Car Show in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is February 18th, 19th, and 20th, I am pretty sure. I'm going to double check, just make sure I don't say that wrong. Anyway, counting today, I pretty much have 40 days to finish my car. Yeah, 18th, 19th, and 20th. Now, the 40 days is pretty much counting up to Thursday. The show is on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I do have a little bit of an issue, as actually a couple. This car show, you're supposed to submit pictures of your car so you can get in the car show. And it's an indoor car show. I've never put any of my cars in indoor shows. They've always been outdoor car shows. But anyway, so I got to get the car further along because I don't think they're going to want to see pictures of a body shell on a frame with no engine in it. So I'm going to try to get a little bit further along with it, then send some pictures, and hopefully they'll let it in. Sometimes there's stuff there that, in my opinion, shouldn't even be there. But anyway, it's just the way it is. But anyway, that is the plan. I am pretty sure that in 40 days I can get this car ready, but there is another problem that could get me. This is the one that would pretty much shoot me in the foot right from the get-go. Now, I want to start off by saying I have never done a retrofit roller camshaft in a two-piece rear main small block Chevy before. I've never had the money to do a roller cam. All that stuff is too expensive. This is my first. Now, I have had 80s model, later 80s GM small blocks that have the roller stuff capabilities with one-piece rear main. I've just never retrofit one in an older small block. So this is the first. One thing that you have to do once you get your cam here and your lifters, you have to measure for pushrod length. They cannot tell you on the phone what pushrod length you need. There's too many variables in everybody's engine. If your block's been decked, your heads have been milled, the thickness of head gasket you used, and all kinds of stuff. So they can't tell you what you need. You have to find that out on your own. So back in November when I ordered the cam, I ordered a pushrod length checker. It came in a long time ago, but anyway, so last night I started to try to measure for that. I have never done this before. I've never measured pushrod length. So I've always run stock GM heads. This was actually my first set of aluminum metal blocks as well. So I've always run stock heads, Felpro head gaskets, and just used stock length pushrods. Other than these Edelbrock heads, it did say in there they had to be 0.100 longer, 0.100 shorter, I don't remember. And I bought the ones they had in their list. But anyway, the reason that you have to measure for specific pushrod length is because of this. The roller lifters. Look how massive these are in length. Here is a hydraulic flat tappet lifter, and that is almost double the length difference. So the pushrods you get are going to be quite a bit shorter. So last night I come out here and I put the head gasket on and I put a head on. I just put a few bolts in it and just barely snugged it. Got a rocker arm out and everything. I got the pushrod length checker in there. And I was a little nervous from the get-go because I've never done it before. So what I ended up doing was I went in and I watched a couple of videos and found out that now I have to remove the head because you got to take the intake and the exhaust valve spring off and replace the valve springs with these little tiny, little thin, like something you'd find at a hardware store. So now, of course, I go to the hardware store and probably find something that would work, but I basically just decided to contact a friend of mine, Jason Barrett, who builds racing engines for himself and other people. And he's going to come over here tomorrow and bring a kit he has to properly do that. That has the springs, the pushrod length checker, and all that. Now, if the event, we figure that out, I'm afraid the pushrods could be on back order, just like everything else in this country is right now. So this may shoot this 40-day crunch right out of the gate from the get-go. But there is hope. Jason does have a lot of push rods, new and used, at his shop. I remember last time I went over there, he's got a giant shelf, and there's cams in their boxes just stacked on this shelf, and push rods and all kinds of stuff. He's a bracket racer, you know, he's done this before. He's a big block Chevy guy, and he likes, you know, roller cam stuff in him, so he's no stranger to measuring for push rod length. So I'm going to let a professional do this, and that way I don't mess something up. I could do it, no doubt. Anybody can do anything. You just have to learn. But I'm going to get an education tomorrow, and that's what I'm looking forward to, because I like learning hands-on, not just watching a video. So there's a lot of money in that engine, and I don't want to destroy it. So I don't know what time he's coming tomorrow. I'm going to try to see if he can come over here as early as I can so I can figure out what push rods I need. In the event that I get the push rods and they're available, it's on. Like, it is on. I got 40 days to get this car done for that show, and I am 110% sure I can get it done unless something stupid happens again. Like last time, I tried to make a go at this last year for the same show, and by the time I figured out all my stupid little bugs, those bugs destroyed my rebuilt 350 engine that I had in here. So if some of you guys remember, I had issues with this car when I put it together. The fuel pump was over fueling the needle and seat. It was getting past it on the carburetor, and it was flooding the engine. Now, it's a hydraulic flat tappet that I put in that engine, so when you start up a new engine, you got to break in the cam. Their times vary for cam manufacturers, you know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. I broke mine in for 25 minutes, and by the time it got to 25 minutes, the car was barely trying to run. It was full of black smoke in here, and it was pretty much trying to die. It fuel fouled the spark plugs in that amount of time. So anyway, what happened was I had a stock replacement over-the-counter fuel pump from the parts store for a 1979 Chevy 350 pickup. It was putting out 8.2 psi to my Demon carburetor, and it was over-fueling the needle and seat. And I've had guys tell me that you can put 9 psi to a carburetor. Well, I can tell you right now, I've never had one that'll do it. So anyway, I took the pump back off, took it back to O'Reilly's, and exchanged it. And the next one was doing the same thing. So I, at that point, got on Google, and I put in that issue and found out that there are several other guys recently at that amount of time has been having the same problem. So I don't know if the manufacturer's putting in the wrong springs, they're too strong. I don't know, don't care. I ended up putting a fuel pressure regulator on it for a stock fuel pump, which is absolutely ridiculous, but I fixed the problem. But in the meantime, it pretty much probably washed the bearings out of my brand new engine, and that's probably why it's knocking. I also had a problem with a brand new MSD distributor right out of the box. It would start up and run, it wouldn't idle. It would rev up and, you know, setting the idle screw up to break the cam in, it worked fine for that, but it would not idle down low. I swapped the entire distributor out with an old used one that I put together from junk parts, and the car started right up and sat there and idled perfectly. So that was another issue. And then setting the air bleeds on the jet plate on the Demon carburetor, one of the tips was broke off of the needle down inside the carburetor. Because I had one of them I couldn't get to respond. It was, I don't remember the vacuum reading, so I just set the other three to match it. So anyway, luckily I got it apart and got it out of there and fixed that. So, and that was a brand new carburetor out of the box. And I noticed when I put the screwdriver on that air bleed to turn it in, because I always do 1.5 out, and anytime, whether it's out of the box brand new or whether I build it, I do 1.5 out base setting on all those air bleeds for a base setting to get the car running. And I noticed when I put the screwdriver on there, that thing was stuck, like it cracked when it finally broke loose. So 3 things brand new out of the box that when you're in a crunch trying to get something done, you got to mess with crap like that for brand new parts. So I think the overfueling is probably what did that engine in. I have not torn that engine apart. There's no need. It is knocking. It's not going to do any good to spend the time taking it apart to see what's wrong with it. I don't have the money to build it anyway. So I ended up, instead of rebuilding that engine, I decided to do the 400. It's what I wanted anyway. My dream car has been a Tudor hardtop 55. I have that now, and my dream engine is a 400 small block. I love 400s. I've had a bunch. I love them. It's big block torque in a small block package. So anyway, that is the plan. 40 days starting today to get this car done for Daryl Starbird's show. I am pretty confident because the car, you know, I'd already drove it in the shape it's in. I put a wooden stool in there and drove it down the end of the block and back. I do have a video of that. And the tripod fell over in the car and I didn't know it until I got back, but kind of a lame video. But anyway, so at least I know it stops and does all it needs to do so far, you know, at low speed. But anyway, I had everything dialed in finally. Like the day before it was knocking, I had it tuned and everything. It was running awesome. I should have changed the oil in it. Right after that break-in, I just didn't do it. I left that oil in there because, you know, it's all zinc and all that fancy oil and break-in oil, comp cams oil, and it was an expensive oil change, you know, so it kind of could have been a little bit of my fault too. But anyway, now the body panels obviously are not on the car, and they're in the house. They're all in final prime, and some of them are already wet sanded, ready to paint. I do have to finish sanding one door, and I think a fender, the hood. I don't really remember. I'll have to go back in there and look. But anyway, so I got a day of wet sanding parts and getting them ready, and then another day of painting all the parts. So there's a couple of days there, and then I have to do the upholstery on the car. I'm doing all that myself, not stitching the seats. I bought a Ciadella interior kit for the factory seats. Headliner's in it. There's a video of that. The headliner and everything's in it. Like all the wiring pretty much on the dash and all the back half of the car is finished. I just got to finish wiring up my gauge pod that I made up here. That's what all this is. And then obviously wire the front. But I am pretty happy that I did have the car running and I did drive it down the end of the block. So I know that at least if I can get this engine started and it's holding oil pressure, I know it'll pretty much run pretty decent now that I've got all the parts to put right back on it that I had on it. Everything will be set exactly where it was. So, I mean, I know like the air bleeds and all that's going to be different with this cam, so I will have to readjust that. But I'm saying, like, I know the distributor's good and I know my fuel pressure is going to be where it needs to be that I left alone on the regulator. Anyway, I did wipe the car down yesterday because usually in these videos when you see this car, this thing is always covered in dust. I did get some moving blankets, some brand new ones. I think my mom and dad brought them over here for me, and I took one out of the package and I put it on the roof of the car, and then I had another one back here. And then one day I decided to pull the blankets off of it, and I, you know, slid the blanket to me and flipped it over and then, you know, folded it up on the roof, and I took them in the house and I was going to clean the car up. And I noticed I had some scratches in the paint from that welding blanket, or that moving blanket. They're just fine. It didn't dig into the paint. It's just, it rubbed right off, but you know, it made me nervous. That's why I don't ever put them back on there. But I need a little car cover, but every time I go to my local Walmart, they never have that little gray, cheapy indoor cover in stock. Probably should order it online because they're only like 25 bucks or something, but that's pretty much what I needed at this point. But I probably still ought to get one to put on here, but this car I don't really care. It's bare metal, and I got to sand it all down anyway before I do any primering on it anyway. So anyway, guys, that's the new plan. I'm going to jump on the hardtop for 40 days. Unless the push rod length that I need is something that's on back order and I can't find the push rods, then I'm just going to turn around and jump right back on the four-door. So I'm always going to be working on cars. That's bottom line. There's nothing in the world I'd rather do is take an old pile of crap car and get it back on the road again. I take a lot of pride in that, and it's just awesome. But that's the plan. So 40-day crunch. I'm going to call this a crunch, not a thrash. I've always called my deadlines thrashes, and I think I've pretty much thrashed all you guys and myself out on this car, and I think I did one on this car last year trying to get it ready. So I'm going to call this a crunch. Anyway, guys, there's going to be lots of videos coming. I am going to go ahead and do a video of this car walking around it because I've had guys that, you know, they found my channel and they're watching because of the four-door videos I've been posting, and they see this in the background, and so they've been asking about this. So I'm going to go ahead and do a video, a walk around of this, and I'm going to talk about the shape it was in when I got it, and, you know, talk about everything that I've done to it so far, and that'll kind of get some of the new guys caught up to the story on this car. Now at the end of this video, you know, when my thing comes up at the end of the video, it usually says subscribe on one side and it has a little video you can click on. I'm going to go ahead and post a video on that part of it at the end of the video of the undercarriage of this car, so you'll see what it looks like underneath. Anyway, it is an older video, I think from last year, maybe 2 years ago, I don't even remember. But anyway, at Starbird's show, that was the plan of this car from the get-go, because I wanted to put it on stands with lights under it and mirrors and all that. I spent a lot of time on the chassis and a lot of time underneath the car, and I'm proud of it. It looks really, really nice, especially for a garage-built car. If you've been keeping up or have not been keeping up, I built this car in a two-car garage connected to my house, and half of the work on this car was probably done right outside in my driveway underneath the carport. So I'm proud of that, and doing that, you know what I mean? It's not a pro-built car. I was trying to make it look like a pro-built car, but it's not. It's amateur built. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Gonna be lots of videos coming your way.